So let's get to this. Radical Democrats are going all in on selling socialism. Look at this. Their agenda front and center during last night's Organize to Win town hall. Far-left candidates focused on rallying support, urging more progressives to join their movement.
The disease is the system that allows big corporations, billionaires, special interest groups like AIPAC to buy and sell politicians in ways that leave them rigging the system against us.
I will say it is plainly clear that we must abolish ICE.
Just because somebody calls himself a Democrat does not mean they're doing the work for us.
We stand against the genocide. We stand against foreign wars.
It's about taking on a system rigged against working people, fighting for Medicare for all, strong unions, higher wages, reproductive freedom, and an economy where billionaires and corporations finally pay their fair share.
Whoever the Democratic nominee is, they're going to call Democratic candidates socialist, communist, whatever they need to distract us from the fact that our movement is building working class people power.
Wait a minute. You all call yourself the Democrat socialists. Like that's not something that the media or another political party came up with. That's actually who Bernie Sanders says he is. That's AOC. Multiple far-left candidates have knocked out Democrat incumbents in primaries so far, and more Democrat House members are at risk in states like Michigan, California, Arizona. Veteran Democrat strategist James Carville, not happy about it.
Is their solution to beat Republicans, to run against Republicans? No. Their solution is to beat Democrats. Like they're part of the problem. No, you are part of the problem because you're an idiot. Somehow or another, among Democrats, something became more important than winning elections. And that became, oh, I want to feel superior to people. You're talking the country into the ditch. Into the ditch. That's what you're doing.
Power panel now. Al Mottur, Democrat strategist, Mehek Cooke, GOP strategist. A head-to-head debate here right now. Al, I'm going to have you go first. So, look, James Carville actually drilled down on something people are not talking about. He thinks that there is an underbelly in terms of what's going on inside your party, that this isn't just or even solely about winning. There's something else going on. What is it? He made it sound nefarious. What do you think it is?
I agree with him. There's a purity test that's being applied to political figures, and if you don't meet it, you're a failure. And that just is simply flatly not true. Look at Michigan. You referenced Michigan. Haley Stevens is running against Abdul El-Sayed. She is someone who's actually delivered results, is in favor of expanding health care, and he claims, wrongly, that she is a captive of special interests. There's no evidence of that. His evidence is that she hasn't gotten done what he wants to get done, but that's not her fault. Republicans control the House of Representatives.
Mehek, your response to that?
Well, I think the bigger issue that everybody is watching unfold today is that the Democrat Party is being held hostage by a handful of socialists that are turning the country around. We're looking at 7 states today where these communists have taken over. In these low turnout elections, they've been very clever. It's a cheap way to completely change the direction of the Democrat Party. And I'll tell you, Michigan is that testing ground because it's a swing state. It went from Joe Biden to it went from President Trump in 2016 to Joe Biden back to President Trump. That means they're not loyal to a party. Right. They're independents that are looking for somebody that's going to make a change for their pocketbooks to their security in terms of crime. And when you have El-Sayed out there saying, I want to abolish ICE, well, I got to ask you then, who's locking up these people? Because 9 out of 10 Americans want safety and security. National security is paramount in these swing states. So the Democrats have a huge problem. You guys can call yourselves whatever you want. Moderate, Democrat, radical, socialist, communist. I call it crazy today, Harris. They've lost their common sense and middle ground.
A new opinion piece by Republican National Committee Chairman Joe Gruters is titled, Democrat Civil War is Blazing. Now the GOP will feast. It argues from coast to coast, the radical base is in open revolt, and a frightened establishment is doing whatever it takes to hold the line, even if that means silencing the very voters it claims to represent. The irony is that Democrats' infighting only boosts Republicans' chances of winning critical battleground races this year. Al.
Yeah, I'm going to agree mostly with what Mehek said and also with what was said in that editorial. These people, they're not crazy. They're ideologues, but they don't love America. Let me say that. A lot of these people do not love America. And I'm not Team Democrat, I'm Team America. And if we have people in our party who are so far left that they are saying we don't want to protect people from crime, well, that's just absurd. And by the way, we're not going to win a national election, let alone an election in Michigan, if that's our position. I noticed Ed Markey, Senator Markey, saying it about Massachusetts. He's doing that because he's being challenged by Congressman Moulton, who's more moderate, and he's trying to win a primary, to the point of Mehek's comments that these folks are picking these primaries because they know they're low turnout elections and the energized left can sometimes pull a surprise.
Yeah, so Mehek, talk to me about somebody like a Ro Khanna, because what I hear Al Mottur saying, you know, they just want to get to that general point, whether it be, well, the midterm elections, could be the White House. You can't do that with these policies, but Ro Khanna has mixed in anti-Semitism with that. I don't know if you saw his latest visit to Israel and making up stuff about the Israeli Defense Forces and what didn't really happen there on the ground. He was not threatened. You can watch the video yourself. It's all over online. But he wanted that moment. So I'm guessing he's probably going to run in 28 for the White House. But what does this really get them, the far left, and men like Ro Khanna?
Well, Ro Khanna is running for the presidential nomination, and what he's trying to do is exactly what Gavin Newsom is trying to do. They need these communists on their side because they are very strong, they're disciplined, they're organized, they're winning, and they are getting thousands of Americans to sign up, including young voters, a demographic that Republicans right now are losing. So I think what Ro Khanna is doing is continuing to show that he's extreme. And then I love when he comes on Fox News and panders about Doge and the fact that he's a moderate. He's just as extreme, and a stunt in Israel will actually backfire, Harris, because there are many people, not just Jewish people, Americans that are repulsed. It's what Democrats do. They continue to stand in the way. Hopefully, some incident happens, a national incident, and then they become victims. Well, I want to celebrate the 250th of America and be proud to be free and less victimhood. That's what President Trump has taught the American people. So we're going to reject people like Ro Khanna for the presidential race in the future.
Wow. Al Mottur, we have about 10 seconds. Your thoughts?
Ro Khanna, bring it on. Run for president. You're going to lose.
Wow. Okay. And the words, the sticking point today, I don't know if you caught it, Mehek, it's like a bumper sticker from a Democrat. He said, I'm pro-America. Like, you're an American, not Democrat first. Good to see you both. Thank you very much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.